OpenStack's an amazing example.
It is. And on that point, like Rob, since you were part of kind of the formation of it, and you were at Dell at that time.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of wondering how the experience was for you in terms of, was Dell supportive of what was forming? Did they have an understanding what they are getting into? Was it like, okay, let's have the software team playing around a little bit. Why not? And then we also build servers in the meantime, and that brings us revenue. How was it?
Oh, oh my goodness.
Did I
Completely.
did I just step on something?
No, no. It was awesome, and completely foreign, to Dell. So the reason it worked is because Rackspace and the Rackspace leaders had a personal relationship with Michael. And Michael Dell wanted to sell a lot of servers to Rackspace at the time, and was selling a lot of personal servers to Rackspace. So there's a lot of reason to want. This was before Amazon was the clear leader, and so there was a lot of and just geographically, right? We were in Austin. Rackspace was in San Antonio. Geographic proximity made a total difference here. But basically, I think Lou, who's CEO of Rackspace at the time, called Michael and said, "We're going to do this thing. We want you to help." Michael said, "I have no idea what that means, but of course we'll help." And my team got sent in to figure this out, do what you need. And the fact that we had, Michael's blessing on making it happen, open doors that we would never have been able to open otherwise. And when we went to do Crowbar and we're like, we're going to do this open source, we were the first open source project Dell had ever done. They did a ton of Linux and Linux adjacency stuff, which is Dell actually deserves a lot of props for their Linux groups. They'd never initiated a project like this. And we just sort of flew through a whole bunch of stuff. A bit of asking for permission after the fact, but we had top level buy-in to make it happen. And then it started getting very, very positive response, and it became easier to keep those practices going. The thing that I think was less clear, and I think makes it hard for other projects to follow, is there was a degree of lightning in a bottle because of Michael's interest, because of OpenStack's celebrity, because we had a small software team that really understood how to do software and wanted to make that happen. Those things lined up. And it became increasingly hard to go back and do that. I actually have a big cup in my office just around the corner we had a contest of OpenStack versus VMware sales, and the OpenStack was outselling the VMware efforts at the time. So we got awarded the cup, and then the whole thing got sort of dissolved, and I still have the cup, but we only had to win it 1 year to get the cup. But there was a lot of excitement over this sort of revolutionary model on how we were going to do it. And it's easy for Dell because, and Phil, for HP too, Dell would make money selling servers. They didn't have to worry about software margin on this. And so it was a very aligned moment for Dell to be like, oh, we're going to sell servers. We're going to not have to worry about VMware, which is giving us all sorts of trouble. And then they bought them and things changed. But which is a lesson in just how fickle that sort of thing is, right? It was like, hey, this is great. And then a couple of years later, they own VMware and they're like, this isn't so great. And so that was a turning. One of the things that actually made the whole thing change in our mind, another funny story, is that we started partnering really deeply with Red Hat on this. And we were having this, while we were getting the partnership going, we had this upstairs, downstairs moment. My bosses were meeting with Red Hat bosses about getting the deal, and I was meeting with the Red Hat technical people about their OpenStack efforts. And the Red Hat people were like, oh, we're so glad to be working with you. with you, Dell, because y'all have, understand the ops for OpenStack really well, and you can help us get the ops stuff. Red Hat at the time had been changing their install strategy every 6 months. Things like Stay Puff, if people ever remember what that crazy things were, they had like, it was literally flavor of the day. So they were like, we're so excited to be partnering with you. 2 floors up, my boss was telling the Red Hat people, we're so excited to be partnering with you. We don't know anything. Please just tell us whatever we need to do, and we'll do that. And so that was the debrief on that meeting was very weird. It was very weird, and that's in some ways says a lot, not much about OpenStack, but a lot about corporate partnerships. But
and the structure of big companies, I mean, even just what you said, that you had the top level buy-in in terms of joining this, whatever this is, how this thing will be, that became OpenStack. And then it also sounds like that you had a really lucky alignment in terms of having a little bit of playroom on the software side and having the team with a really good understanding, and it just everything magically lined up for this to be successful. Is that a fair thing for observation to say?
I think so, although I don't, there's a degree of luck in that, and you have to be prepared for luck, if you will. Mm-hmm. I think that there's a takeaway for me, which is at the end of the day, Dell's a hardware company, not a software company, not an ops company. And so what you have to realize is there's times when you're involved in an organization that's not going to revert to mean, go back to what its sort of base is. And you can be in those organizations and take advantage of a moment where it's willing to change or willing to do something different. One of the lessons to me in all this stuff is that, but organizations generally do revert to mean. So, Dell's a hardware company. It's going to keep doing things that make it a hardware company. It's very, very difficult for any company to not be true to its core mission. And so, and this is, I think, a lesson for anybody who wants to do open source inside of a company, or even open source inside of an open source company. You figure out what the mission of the company is, and if the work you're doing in open source aligns with that mission, then you're golden, and you'll make the investments and things will work out. If you're off mission in the work you're doing, and what we did with Crowbar was a lot of fun, but it was off mission. And so, I didn't appreciate at the time, you have borrowed time when you were living on borrowed time. And there's times when you can pull that over the edge and it'll be great. I think we pursued things that used up some of the time that we had while we were off mission that might have created longevity. It's just really hard to know at the time. But yeah, if you're not on mission in any project, but I think open source is actually even more fragile because it's not funded. And so until, if you're investing in an open source thing, you have a limited time to figure out the funding model for it, and if it's aligning to the mission around what you're doing. And if you can't figure those two things out or don't have a path to, then ultimately the investments you're making are going to fall apart.
Yeah,
to say it's brutal hard. That's maybe a harsh truth, but
no, I wanted to hear the harsh truth, and I think what you said about mission, that is true for both open source as well as the corporate environments, like inside big companies. Like, you have to have the experience to know what's going on in there, because otherwise it's impossible to see or even just imagine what is going down there in different departments and different parts of the company, what is actually bringing in revenue, what's the actual mission, how it is changing. I also think that some of the observations we are making, we're only able to make it because it's like 1, 5, 10, 15 years later. And now,
that is true.
Now in retrospect, I understand it now, but there was no way at that time for anybody to really truly understand. And seeing that, bird's eye view, like you're in it or you're watching from the outside. You can't really do both, in my experience.